Hello. I want to thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to do a little bit more teaching during the summer. What I'm going to do in the video portion is really just to choose a few topics, which are my favorite topics from the Sefer, or the Mimer, or the essay, or the personality, and it's given me an opportunity just to talk a little bit more about it, besides just the summary, which we give in the email. Today we're going to deal with shmone perakim of the Rambam. Okay, which we normally find. This is the classic printing of Hakdama Perush Mishnah, okay, which has most of the Hakdamas of the Rambam. So we're talking about today is shmone perakim of the Rambam, which is the Hakdama to Pirkei Avos in the Rambam's Perush on the Mishnayos. I'm going to pick three quick topics for us to touch on today, and we're going to touch on them very briefly. The first topic, which is almost just a line, is a line from the Rambam in his Hakdama, where the Rambam says that he's intentionally he's going to quote people, but he's not going to give the source. He's going to be taking always from people, but not giving the source, and he's going to do that for a specific reason. He's going to do that because he's also going to be taking from non-Torah sources. He's going to be taking both from Torah sources and non-Torah sources, and he knows that there are people who, if he gives the non-Torah sources, then they will ignore him. And because of that, he's following a principle which he establishes here to accept, to receive, to learn truth, to hear truth from wherever it comes. Okay? And this is where the Rambam establishes, and this sets the Rambam apart, certainly from the Ramban and the people who are not coming from Muslims' brain, but coming from Christians' brain, where he's willing to take from philosophy. He's sitting in the golden age of Spain, and he's willing to take from philosophers, and he takes heavily from philosophers. And he says that it's okay to take from philosophers. Now, it's important for us to point out that the Rambam, when he talks about limud Torah, says that you can only be makabel Torah from someone who's dome alecha kamalach memalachei asharis. Someone who's really to you like a malach. And here we have two opposite extremes. You can accept truth from any source, but you can be makabel Torah only from someone who is almost perfect to you. And here, the Shariosher, Rav Shimon Shkak, in the Hakdama to Shariosher, gives the distinction. I'll say it quickly. It says sometimes we take something from a source, and then we filter it and we decide whether it's true or not. And if we decide it's true, then it doesn't matter what the source is. The fact that the source is a weak source doesn't matter as long as we're able to filter it and see it as true. We don't reject something just because of where it's coming from. But on the other hand, there are some things, and that's why he says that we have to be able to accept truth from wherever it's coming. On the other side, there's the concept of being makabel Torah. When we're makabel Torah, that's when we accept something only because of the source. When we say, you know what, I haven't really looked into it, but if my Rebbe says so, if so-and-so says so, I have such a tremendous amount of respect for their knowledge, for their midos, for their overall, that if they say it, I can respect it just because of the fact that they say it. So that's the distinction. The Rambam says we don't accept things from anywhere. Now, we don't simply accept things blindly from anywhere because we have to understand it. But if we see it as true, we can't reject it just because of its source. Okay, because that's the first point which I want to bring up from the Rambam, from his Hakdama. The second is the concept of whether, when the Rambam deals with the question of what our relationship is supposed to be to mitzvos and to averos. Meaning, we know we're not allowed to do averos. We know we have to do mitzvos. Do we have to love it? Do we have to hate averos? Do we have to love mitzvos? Is it okay for me to say, I wish I could taste like bacon. It looks so tasty, but you know what? But it's usher to me. So first he brings down, he says, there are philosophers who says, that's the best. The highest level is to desire something, but have the self-control to overcome it. The Rambam makes a distinction. The Rambam says we have two different types of mitzvahs. And you use the Rambam's formulation, not in language because he said it in Arabic, but his formulation, and then I'm going to give my own explanation to it. The Rambam says that we have mitzvahs which are Ra Lashem Vira Lebnei Adam, okay? And we have mitzvahs which are Ra Lashem Batov Lebnei Adam, okay? Mitzvahs which Hashem says are asr, but the world says is mutter. So those type of things, the Rambam says, if I want to do them, the fact that I want to do them doesn't show that there's anything wrong with me. Okay, if a person says, "Ah, I wish I could eat a cheeseburger, but it's asr, so I can't," the Rambam says that's not indicative of the fact that there's something corrupt with me or wrong with me. But he said there's something which is wrong, which is considered morally wrong to everyone, and it's asr, and I still have a desire to do it. If I'm sitting there and I say, "Ah, I wish I could kill my roommate," but it's asr. He says that shows that there's something wrong. Okay, so that's the Rambam's formulation. Some people understand the Rambam as saying there's mitzvos sichliot, there's mitzvos which are logical, and those I have to totally buy into, appreciate, understand, and therefore I appreciate them. I shouldn't want to do them. And there's mitzvos which are chukim, which are not sichliot. Those I just have to do. I'd like to make a different type of distinction, or a different way of explaining that Rambam's distinction. There's mitzvos where the mitzvah is a mitzvah to do something, to act in a certain way, and there's mitzvahs where a person has a responsibility to be something. Okay, it doesn't have to do with whether it's logical or not logical. It's a question of whether the mitzvah is to act a certain way, or the mitzvah is to be a certain way. In general, by mitos, by things which reflect ethics and morality, the commandment is not simply to do, it's to be. In the same way that we say, Mahu rachum apata rachum. That's supposed to describe who we are, not just what we're supposed to do. Okay? We're not only supposed to act with kindness, we're supposed to be kind. So to be there and sit there as the ani comes to the door and say, "Oh, I wish I didn't have to help him, but here," and I throw money at him. So there, the tzedakah was not simply a chiyuv hamaisa, an action. There's a responsibility to be kind. There's a responsibility of ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Those mitzvos must be transformative. They must turn us into something. And there are other mitzvos, which is a chiyuv. We have to shecht in a certain way. We have to cook and eat our milk separate from our fleishiks. That's not what we're supposed to be. That's how we're supposed to act. Okay, and not always does action demand that it be transformative in who we become. It has its own effect, its own metaphysical effect. Okay, that's topic number 2. Topic number 3, which I'll do very quickly, is the limits of man's logic and understanding. Okay, the Rambam, on the one hand, is a rationalist. On the other hand, part of being a rationalist and part of appreciating man's understanding is also appreciating the limits of man's understanding. The Rambam says part of a limitation of being able to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu stems from HaKadosh Baruch Hu's infiniteness. Okay? Our understanding works in a way that we only have words and we only have thoughts for things which we've seen or experienced or sensed. Anything which is beyond those senses, we cannot possibly think of or imagine or understand. Because the Rambam isn't limited to it. And the truth is, it's not just that, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not limited to those senses, so there's no reason necessarily to think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we can understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, it's even stronger than that. There might even be things which we will understand at one point because we will have the devices and utensils to be able to sense them, to be able to measure them, to be able to see them. But now we don't have them, so now we can't imagine them. If you look back a few generations, or certainly a few hundred years, they wouldn't have been able to imagine nanophysics. They wouldn't be able to imagine things which to us we can see with an MRI, and we can see brainwaves. And in the time of the Rambam, they couldn't even imagine something like that being, because they didn't have a way to see it. They didn't have a way to sense it. So certainly HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not limited. So that leads to a situation for the Rambam, whose entire goal it is, who says that ultimately we are trying to sense and be aware of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to think of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be in tune with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to the extent that we can. Okay? And he takes this to what I think is one of the most beautiful perushim of the Rambam that I've seen, where he's mafarish the whole interplay between Moshe Rabbeinu and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When Moshe Rabbeinu is sitting there and says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hareini na es kvodecha, please, show me your kavod. I want to see you. Okay? I want to know your ways, and I want to see you. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu answers to him, Lo yirani adam v'chai. Now the simple explanation would say that almost as if Moshe Rabbeinu wants to see God, and God says, you can't see me because I'm not physical, but I'll give you something similar to that, and you climb behind the crevice of the rock, the cleft of the rock, and I'll be able to see you at the chorai. You'll be able to see my back. Of course, the Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have a back. So the Rambam says, let me explain to you what's happening. Let me explain to you what these words mean. Hareini nat kvodecha means let me see you. Seeing means let me know you with the clarity of seeing someone. Hareini nat, I want to see your face. Okay, I want to be able to see you, to know you, because seeing is believing. To that point that I see you. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, a man who is alive can't know me to that point. What I'll let you do is see my achora. What does that mean? When you see someone from behind, says the Rambam, you sense that it's them. You see their gait, the way they walk, their presence, but you're not 100% sure. There always is that possibility. They'll tap on their shoulder and say, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were someone else. He says, to that level that we see signs of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we're sure that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is evident to this outside in the world, that we can do. But a living person cannot see me at panai lo yiro. You cannot see me like a person sees a face where it's indistinguishable, where it can't be mistaken for anybody else. Like that, you can't see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because we're alive. And we're limited by our forgiveness. Okay? I think that's a very important point. Okay? We have to take something from everything we learn. Okay? To take from this last point, to understand, we're trying constantly to see a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sometimes what we look for is 100% proofs. If we're only looking for the 100% proofs, then we're not going to see the hints. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you'll never see 100% proof, because to be able to totally know me means for me to be so limited as to what you can sense right now in your generation. That's not even as much as you'll be able to sense a few generations from now. He says that's not possible. Okay, with all of Tzimtzum, that's not possible. He says, but what we have to do is at least look for the achora, at least look for the hints. As we know, the Rambam says, look into the beauty of the world. Look into science. Look into Torah. Look into HaKadosh Baruch Hu's actions, which is history. At least see the signs of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? And that, together with our midos, and together with our intelligence, will allow us to dream a little bit. And when we dream, then we can be inspired. And the Rambam says, in that inspiration, okay, we will have a clarity in the sense of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? That's the first mimer, the Rambam. Very special, shmone perakim. We're not always going to do Rishonim, they're harder, but you have to start with the Rambam. And that's where we started. Okay? See you next week. Kol Tov.